Well, it's a brand new year and we're gonna kick it off the only way that we know how, and that's with old school lures. You see, folks, for the past few months, I've been hoarding lots and lots and lots of vintage fishing tackle. So much so that I don't even know what I have in these boxes. So we're gonna explore that for the first time together. We're gonna learn the history of these lures, and best part for you, guys, stick around towards the end. I'm gonna tell you where you can buy this stuff. You're not gonna wanna miss it. So as I just mentioned, I accumulated a lot of stuff within the last couple months. And so we're gonna split this video up into a two-parter. So we got this box right here. This is all new old stock. I'm not even gonna give any of that away. That's gonna be fun. That's gonna be part two. We also have a tackle box full of some stuff that I think you're gonna be really interested in. But in this episode, we're gonna look at this right here. And that is these 3 bins of crankbaits. Completely filled. Some of them appear to be never used, but majority of them are vintage. And if they're not vintage, they're pretty rare and unusual. So I think you guys are gonna enjoy it. But let's get this over to the table and let's go take a look at what we got. All right, let's kick off this new year with some old school lures. And man, am I excited about this because I haven't dove very far into these lures, only enough to kind of prepare the video a little bit. But this episode, we're gonna take a look at these plastic bins full of crankbaits. And I am excited about what we've got going on in here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start with this first one right here. All right, so let's go ahead and get this puppy opened up and see what we've got inside. And what we're gonna do is basically just go from left to right, down, and just see what we've got in the box here. And pay close attention if there's anything that you see that you just have to have. Most of this will be for sale on eBay, and I'm going to tell you where you can find that at the end of the video. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump over here to the first items we've got here. And we're kicking things off with the Lazy Ike. Now, if you want to learn more about the Lazy Ike, I actually have a video about the Lazy Ike, and I'll put that description down below, but there's the video right there. Coming out in 1938, the Lazy Ike is really the pride of Fort Dodge, Iowa. We got a few here, so got a little wear and tear on that one right there. Here's a nice orange with black dot pattern on there. And these are larger ones. So that's nice, and that's wooden too. Very cool. And then we've got another one right here too. Now, if you want to take a look at another video with a lure very similar to the Lazy Ike, I just put out a flatfish video, and it's that right there. I'll put the link down below. Go check that one out, and so you guys can learn the history of both the Lazy Ike and the flatfish, two very similar lures. But here's what we've got kicking off the video in the top left-hand corner. Moving right along, we've got the Mud Bug right here by ARBOGAST, and one of my personal favorites. I absolutely love this lure. It's just so funky looking with the crazy looking eyes on there, almost kind of alien-like, but it's supposed to mimic a craw. But this one actually was initially made by True Shad out of Monroe, Louisiana. And ARBOGAST purchased the company back in 1969 and started making the lure after that. But a very cool lure by ARBOGAST. If you want to learn more about the history of the Mud Bug, I actually have a video about that as well. So go check that one. I'll put the link down below. But a really, really fun and highly effective little crankbait right here. All right, keeping with the ARBOGAST theme, we've got one over here, the Jitterbug. All right, folks, now this is probably in about every single tackle box in America. It has been catching bass since 1939. I mean, decades and decades of successful topwater bass fishing with this puppy right here. But not all these appear to be vintage per se. This one you can tell is a little bit newer. And how you can tell that on the lip right there where it says ARBOGAST with a little circle around it, you know that's kind of a newer one. And obviously just with the body too. Now if you want to look at something that's a little bit older, you can tell it's got, you know, Fred ARBOGAST right there written on the bill. Now initially this lure was meant to be a deep diving crankbait. And this bill, I don't know if I can get these things, well, you know, it's the hooks are good at least. The bill was actually flipped this way, but the problem was the erratic action of it diving, it didn't work as a very good lure. So ARBOGAST put that away in a drawer, and then I think a friend of his actually found it and said, "What is this?" And then they flipped the bill around, and then he's like, "I think we got a pretty good topwater lure here." So that's how that became. So initially, the genesis of this lure was really meant to be a deep diving crankbait, but just out of kind of luck and of them toying with it, if you will, they turned this into a highly, highly effective topwater. And if you ever fish these, I mean, these things just work and drive the bass crazy. So, pretty fun to see this in the box. And really no surprise that it's in the box because, like I said before, it's in pretty much every box. So let's move down over here to SMITHWICK, and what we have here is the Devil's Horse. And initially this was called the War Horse. Came out in 1947, and when they first made these, they made these out of broom handles. So when he was toying with the design, and this is what's really cool, you can tell kind of by the design if you got a SMITHWICK, but that's the really cool kind of exaggerated eyes. But here's some old school ones. This one appears to be wood. Yep, look at that. You got the Devil's Horse right there. Really cool. I mean, these things are all kind of stuck together. It's probably gonna stick on my hand at some point. Go and take a look at this one though. Really nice little design right here. And then here's I love that frog pattern. Just really in any kind of lure with this frog pattern is awesome. Hey, why don't we go ahead and take a look at an old school Bass Pro catalog and see if this would look like back in the day. All right, so let's go ahead and take a quick look at this 1984 Bass Pro catalog. And the reason I picked this one is because I think it gives you a pretty good idea of what these would have looked like new, because I think some of the things in the box are newer, some of them are older. So we got a good mix of something kind of in between right here from 1984. Plus we can kind of show some real examples. So I just mentioned that frog pattern, and there that is right there. Just absolutely love that. This Coach Dog, another very cool one from back in the day. And I wanted to show you this one too, this kind of chrome and black. And I apologize, folks, I'm really trying to eliminate the glare, so I've got this at a little bit of a tilt. But if you see this chrome right there, that's a chrome with a black back. This is that right there. So you can see chrome, black back, but then you have the orange belly. Just very, very nice. And then again, so there you have it. There is some old school Devil's Horse for you. Tried and true. If it's not broke, don't fix it. The thing has worked for years and years. Fantastic little topwater there. Okay, moving on over. Now we're into HEDDON. And here we go. Another really cool topwater right here, and very similar in design to the Devil's Horse. And this is the HEDDON Dying Flutter. This one came out 11 years after the Devil's Horse in 1958. But a very cool front and rear prop topwater right here. And you know what, folks? Let's go back to it. Let's get back over to the 1984 catalog. And let's go ahead and take a look at the HEDDON ad. All right, so here you have it. Here is the Dying Flutter. We'll see if we can get that off of, there we go. That's a little better view right there. So there's the Dying Flutter. If you notice, a little bit more expensive than the SMITHWICK at $298. But we have right here, we have the bullfrog finish, and that's the one that we've got here in box. So you're paying a few cents more for the HEDDON. You go back over here to the Devil's Horse, that was $278. You know, so hey, 20 cents, but kind of whatever your flavor is. Some people may want the HEDDON, some people may want the SMITHWICKs. Both very effective lures. But that right there is the Dying Flutter. There you have it. Coming out in 1958, folks. Now the late 50s were big for HEDDON, and as we move through this box, you'll see why. So if we're going down the little list here, we've got the next one, which is the HEDDON Supersonic. Look at that. It's almost like some kind of shad meets coach dog. That is an awesome, awesome looking lure. Appears to have never been fished. This one came out though a year before in 1957. And if you want to learn more about that, I actually have a nice little video. It's a little 5-minute video about the history of the Sonic. Go ahead and check that out. And why it was called the Sonic though is this kind of vibrating fin that they put on there. So kind of a supersonic, you know, looking fin. And it makes sense. Think about 1957, space age, that kind of design, the fins. Look at the 57 Chevy, for example. I mean, you're seeing all that in designs in not only automobiles, but then in their lures as well, too. So kind of an aerodynamic, you know, supersonic sound, you know, kind of all goes back to the space race, aviation, whatever else. But very nice lure here from HEDDON, coming out in the late 50s, 1957. All right, and keeping with the HEDDON theme, we've got one right here that's been a staple in tackle boxes for decades upon decades. In fact, this lure's been around since 1939. And it's none other than the Zara, but this is the Zara Puppy, the downsized version of the original Zara. And where Zara got its name, at least from what I've read, is that Zara, I believe it's Zaragoza Street or Zaragoza Street, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, used to be a, let's just say a nightlife district. You know, this is a family show, folks, so we'll kind of keep it pretty PG. But essentially, there's some questionable behavior going on that street, and a gentleman was out fishing a plug one day that lived pretty close to the street and said, man, that lure has got moves like the folks on Zaragoza Street. And so that's where the name stuck. At least that's what I've heard. If you guys got a different story, you let me know. But that's what I've heard it to be. So the Zara Puppy is a downsized version, like I said. So this is a 3-inch and a 1/4 ounce. And so let's go ahead and just take a look at what this would have looked like new in 1995. Let's pull the camera up here a little bit so you can see that. Try to eliminate that glare. But you can see, called the Puppy because this is the big dog right up here. So you got the original Zara right there, and that's 4.5 inches and 3/4 ounce. So a larger scaled lure. And then if you need something that's a little more of a downsize option, you got the 3-inch and it's a 1/4 ounce. So there you have it. That's that. And it's a cool looking find right here. What I love about this one too is the fleck on the outside of that. It's really nice little finish. And yeah, hey, what fish isn't going to love that? You know, doesn't even have to be a bass. I think anything would go for that. So I mentioned that the 1950s were pretty big for HEDDON, but this lure, which did change its looks in the 1950s, actually came out in 1925. And that is none other than the baby and the tiny torpedo right here. If we want to learn more about the history, I actually have a video about that, so go check that out. I'll put the link down below. But originally, when this came out in 1925, it was more of a sinking minnow. Okay, so it had front and back spinners on it. Probably a lot more like what we would think of, you know, something more like this. And this is what it morphed into by the time we got to 1952. In fact, they had a trio of new lineups for that year. But here's the baby torpedo right here. Again, another staple in tackle boxes. The baby torpedo is 2.5 inches, 3/8 ounce. We've got a nice little kind of shad pattern right there. Or maybe, actually, you know, that's probably a baby bass, but it's not green. It's more of kind of a gray baby bass, but you can tell with the spot right there. This might be a baby bass. This might be 2 different bass variations. You know what? All right, I had to go check myself before I wrecked myself here. I pulled out the 1995 catalog again just to make sure that I'm not giving you guys false information. I was right. 95 it's the G finish shad right there. So, hey, it doesn't happen a lot, folks, that I get something right the first time, but that's the G finish. We'll talk about the G finish a little bit later on, but you can tell that really, really nice color on that. And then we got some little tiny torpedoes right here. And these are the smaller downsized version right here. And these are 7/8 inch and 1/4 ounce. So there you go. Pretty typical HEDDON frog pattern right there. I really like that frog pattern. It's kind of a timeless, old school, looks like it's from the 50s, you know, like that look. And then here you got more of the realistic one. And this was more popular to have this kind of printed realistic look, you know, late 70s, early 80s. Was very big for that look, but you got two different variations of kind of a frog right here. Both would be a ton of fun to fish. All right, moving down over in the corner here, we've got a Bomber Model A. So if you don't know much about the Bomber Model A, that actually first appeared here in 1977. Let's go ahead and move the little plastic bin out of the way here. And so the Model A was really in response to the alphabet soup craze of the 70s. So if you think about it, you had the Big O by CORDELL, you had the Rebel R, you had the Norman N series, you had the Strike King S series. Well, Bomber's version was the Model A. So here you have that right here. And this one is not old by any means. In fact, you can still buy these everywhere today. Still a very highly effective little crankbait. But here is what the initial ad from 1977 would have looked like in the Bass Pro catalog. So you can see the beginning of the Model A right here and some of the colors that they came out with. And you can see they had the Fire Tiger. The craw was obviously big then. Everyone had a frog pattern. And then you've had, you know, perch patterns and yellow rib, super shad, whatever else. But here's what that would have looked like new for 77. But just wanted to show you kind of a light history of that. But just a nice one. You can throw that one in the tackle box. I'll probably put it on eBay because they got about a dozen of these and I'll never have enough time to fish them all. So we'll throw it out there for somebody else who may need it. All right, to close out this box, we got something that's pretty unusual, especially for Kansas. And what that is we've got an Excalibur spitting image. Now, these lures would have came out sometime around like 1996. And what's unique about this is the name that's on the lure right here, Mark Sossin. So maybe if you were born and raised in Kansas like me, you may not know that name, but if you're from Florida, you probably do. Or if you're a big saltwater angler, you probably do, because he had Mark Sossin's Saltwater Journal back in the day, and that TV show ran for quite some time. And I think he also had a show on TNN Outdoors. But this would have been a lure that he promoted back in the mid 90s. This one I think is approximately 1996. So interesting to find these in a Kansas tackle box, but quite frankly, I think these would be fantastic up here as well too. Great color, great shine. Excalibur was a very popular brand in the mid 90s, so I think these would be pretty effective. But we're going to pass these on to the next angler. So like many of these lures will be on eBay. So if you're a Mark Sossin fan, if you're an Excalibur fan, or maybe you just want a couple spitting images for your tackle box, be on the lookout for those. So that's going to do it for this first box, but don't worry, we've got 2 more boxes to go. On to box number 2. And here we have it. And I'm really excited about this because not all these items are necessarily super old, but we've got some pretty unique stuff in here. So we're going to do the same thing. Let's stop over here at the top left, move over to the right and down. And we're going to start right here with one that I don't even have in my collection, so I'm super, super excited to get this because there is no better time of year than right now to fish this, and this is none other than the Rebel Spoonbill. Now, this thing's been around for years and years and years. This one appears to be a newer one, if you will, maybe, I don't know, 90s, late 80s, something like that. But I'm excited to fish this because just imagine, let's say that a crankbait and a jerkbait had a baby. Well, that would probably be the Spoonbill, and a very highly effective lure, at least from everything that I've read. And a lot of people swear by this thing, so I can't wait to fish it. And so there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but a lot of people, what they do is they'll reel it in, they'll let it suspend a little bit, and then they'll do kind of a jerking motion. Sometimes that jerk will bring the lure back a little bit, which can cause a reaction strike. But very, very cool. Very excited to get this. So this will be a fun one. But this is the Spoonbill. That one's going in the tackle box. I mean, I hate to not even put it in the collection, but I'm so excited about getting this that I can't wait to fish it. Next one we got here, and this is really just essentially just a Rebel crawfish, if you will. But what I love most about this is the color of this. And so what they're calling this one here, this is the Rebel shallow floater, but essentially it's just like a mini craw. But what I love is just the white with the blue and the orange belly. I mean, I love that color, and a color you just don't see every day. A very nice little downsized crankbait right here. Super cool. Just a nice little floater. And if we're going to be rounding out kind of the Rebels, if you will, we've got this last one over here, and this is really part of the ultralight series. And you've probably seen other bugs in their series. This is the Bumblebee one, but they've got little grasshopper cricket type deals. But this one right here, I think it's just called, let me see if I can read that tiny little, yeah, this is just the Bumblebug, the Rebel Bumblebug. I mean, that's awesome. What is not to love about that? Very nice. You know, get out your ultralight, put that in there. That's just be fun to fish because it's different, it's unique. Love that. Gotta love that. Rebel just makes really, really cool stuff. And real quick before we move on, I am going to show you just out of this 1982 Bass Pro catalog, an example of the Crawfish series right here. And hopefully that glare's kind of gone away a little bit. But you can see an example of what these would have looked like. And they've got some of the newer colors here. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the video, that kind of lifelike printed on look. You can see that's very popular for 1982. There you have it. Just want to show you an example of what that would have looked like in the 82 catalog there. All right, so up next we've got something that isn't old at all, but is certainly unusual, and I think now pretty hard to find. In fact, they made this up till a couple years ago, but I can't find them anywhere on eBay. And I mean, they're really nowhere online to buy, so I think it's something kind of cool and quirky to hold on to. But what we've got here is the Bass Pro XPS Crazy Bug. And what this is, it's just kind of to mimic a crawfish, if you will, and almost like the kind of like beady little eyes like the mud bug has. You got this nice little craw pattern, but a lot of attention to detail, especially for a private label Bass Pro lure. And the printing on this is fantastic, and the design, not sure why they don't make this anymore. Maybe it's probably too expensive to make, or I don't know the rhyme or reason. Maybe they didn't sell a whole lot of them, I'm not sure. But we'll show you an example of what that looks like in the 2019 Bass Pro catalog. But let's go ahead and take a look at this lure up close, and we can see you've got kind of a nice wide body right here. We've got some cool kind of indents inside to give him more character on the outside of the lure, and then the belly of it is a flat belly with a little bit of a lip right here, kind of like on the chin part of the crankbait. So very cool. And then obviously what you can notice first and foremost is, you know, we have these little craw whiskers or tentacles or tails or legs or whatever you want to call it on here, but really nice. It's a little rubber skirt on the side of that. So we've got that one right there in kind of a brown craw pattern. We've got this green craw, and you can see these have never been fished. They are brand new and stuck together. Here we go. So here's the green one. Again, very, very nice attention to detail on this. Look at that. That's a good looking lure. I mean, for a Bass Pro Shop branded XPS, that is cool. So this right here is I think it's called the Melon Craw. So let's go ahead and take a look at what this will look like. Here's the 2019. Like I'm saying, folks, they literally made this up until a few years ago. but you can't find them anymore. I don't even know where they are. You look on the website, they don't exist on there anymore. But here's where they were. They were $4.49 a piece back then. We've got the natural green, so that's this one right here. We got that one. We've got the melon craw, which I believe, yep, it's the melon craw right here. Nice colors, really nice colors. And then we've got this one right here. This is the, just taking a look here. This one appears to be the electric red. Although, I don't know how electric red that is. But this is the only one with the kind of yellow body, and that's what that shows right there. This red swamp looks really cool as well too. But goes down to 6 to 8 feet in depth. But really neat, quirky little lure that's not old by any means, but I would say certainly rare in today's world, especially for something that's so new. So I haven't seen them anywhere else. I can't find them on eBay, and I don't know. I think I might hold on to them. You know what? I'll probably fish one this spring just to see how well it does, and maybe collect the other two until I can find some more. These ones actually came from my dad, and we find these lures a lot of different ways. Garage sales, estate sales, old school tackle shops. In fact, my brother finds a lot of these. And but these are actually my dad's. So we kind of got a whole family affair going on here. So a little Sly and the Family Stone, like, it's a family affair. So anyways, that was bad, I'm sorry. But anywho, I'm going to hold on to these just because I like them. They've got a little family history, and quite frankly, my dad would have purchased these from Bass Pro because he's a sucker just like I am for gimmicky lures. If it's goofy, if it's off the wall, if it's different, he wants it, has to have it, and wants to fish it and see if it catches bass. And so I'm the same way. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree there. So if I saw something like this, I'd be like, well, that's cool. Got to have it. Thanks. So pretty neat. So I'll hold on to that. But let's move over to Rapala. Now, I'm admittedly not the biggest Rapala fan in regards to collecting, because most of my collection is old school, vintage American manufacturers. But I will tell you, if I am purchasing brand new lures, I gravitate towards Rapala because I think the finish of the lures are outstanding. I think they have some of the best finishes. But so this video doesn't go on forever and I stop rambling. This one right here is the Rattl'n Rap. Just a really nice, you can hear the rattle right there, really nice lipless crankbait right here. So hey, if you're a fan of the rattle trap or the spot or whatever else, but you want something a little bit different, here is Rapala's version for you right here, and really just a nice finish. But this will be for sale on eBay for those who are looking for something like that. Let's go ahead and tell you what that looked like in the Bass Pro catalog for 1995, and you see what that would have looked like right there. There is the Rattl'n Rap there in the catalog, so you can get a little example of what that was. Moving over, keeping with the Rapala theme, and this one's a really cool one, and I don't know, I know that you can still buy these, but they're getting a little more scarce. And again, same as far as color goes, if you're looking at both of these. Really, really nice finishes. The only difference between this one is look at that purple back. That's what I'm talking about. Rapala really just nails it when it comes to finishes. And so why do they call it a flat wrap? Well, the flat body of this, and really just kind of a unique design on the body as well too. And this is a balsa bait, so it's designed to float, and it's got a unique bill, but just kind of one of those float. And then you get that strike on that suspend right there. So there's that. And then last but not least, this one is certainly a newer one, but look at this. And this is a jointed Shad Rap, but that is awesome. That's going to go in the tackle box. I'm going to fish that one because I love this color. I've had awesome success with this exact color combo in a different type. It was a deep diving crankbait that Rapala makes. But the red, that super vibrant red craw belly with the green top, I've had that, but I've never fished it with the jointed version like this. So that'll be a really fun one. But cool to find that. So, but that was in, the collection of lures that were obviously from an estate sale or garage sale. All right, moving down the road right here, at quick glance, you might think, oh, okay, there's another RAPALA. Well, it's not. This one's actually a MORIYAMA Shad Rap. So for you Japanese JDM collectors, this would be a nice one. I mean, really just nice finishes on these, just a cool lure. I don't know a lot about this lure, but it looks very nice, but it will be for sale on eBay for those who are interested. And again, keeping with the JDM theme we have right here, this is a new old stock AILE magnet. Now, I believe, and I don't, like I said, I'm not an expert on this stuff, folks, so someone who's an expert can tell me more than I. But I believe Yozuri owns this company now. But look how cool that is. That is awesome. All in Japanese right there. New old stock, never opened, never used. That's a fun one. So very cool to find that. Now, moving over right here, at quick glance, you might see this and think to yourself, well, that's probably a Hot and Tot. Well, kinda, but not. It's actually the knockoff version of a Hot and Tot, and this is what's called a Willy's worm. So if you've ever heard of this little company from back in the day, it's called the Producers, and the Producers made a lot of very popular styled lures, but they're all knockoff. And what I love most about the Willy's worm is, so you can see right here, so you see lip and everything else. And how they sold it was the card, and every card was totally different. I have a whole lot of different cards, different characters or whatever else. But what's best about this, I mean, he's got the beer in hand, he's got the ciggy hanging out, and that's what caught you. You saw this on the shelf, and you immediately were like, wow, that's pretty cool. Then you opened it up, and you got this little plastic thing. And don't get me wrong, it might catch fish, but it's just not the quality that you're going to get with that metal-lipped Storm, thin fin one. So, but there you have it. So that's the Producers Willy's worm. All right, so rounding out the bottom of the box here, we've got an old school frog. At a first glance, you're looking at this, and you probably think to yourself, man, that is old school. What is that? Well, it's not actually all that old, just very worn. And what this is, probably made in the mid-90s, it's a Johnson's Talkin Frog. And we'll show you an example of what that looks like in the Bass Pro catalog. But I actually had one of these new in card, but it was the Budweiser version. And so if you remember the most probably iconic Super Bowl commercial of all time, the Budweiser Talking Frogs, well, Johnson made those just like this too. So you skip along and it'd be like Budweiser. So pretty cool, but this is just a very, very worn out version of that. Just kind of a gimmick lure, but here's what that would have looked like new for 1995 right here, and you got the Talkin Frog. So there you have it. So neat lure, like I said, gimmicky, kind of kicking myself that I sold the Budweiser one, because that was a pretty cool frog, and I think those sell for like 30-40 bucks now today. But either way, you know what, it's good that I have one in the collection, and if I ever do want to get batteries and put it in it and try it, then I got this for pretty much nothing. So there you go. Last but not least, this is one I'm gonna need your help on. I don't know what the heck this thing is. And so this is kind of a viewer's help. If we can tell, it's got a really nice rattle. But let's look at the characteristics of this real quick, so maybe you can help kind of identify what this thing is. So we can see there's a slight indentation on the lip right there. It goes down to these treble hooks. So we got 3 treble hooks. We've got some indentations in the body right here, 3 different kind of grooves within the body, a rear prop, and kind of a beak style nose. I don't know who made this. There's no marking on it. It seems to be relatively well made. It's got some nice kind of silver fleck on the outside of it. I don't know if this is a major manufacturer, if this is, obviously we have some of these other Japanese style lures in here. I wonder if this is maybe more of a Japanese topwater, or if this is a knockoff. I don't know. I don't know what this is. So You, the viewer, help me out. If you know what it is, just down below and let me know what you think this might be. And yeah, be fun to learn the history of it. All right, and taking a look at our final box here for part 1 of our 2-part series, New Year, Old Lures. We've got none other than Storm right here. Not just any Storm, folks. I like pre-RAPALA Storm, the stuff before 1999, and I believe a lot of this is. I can't say for certain if everything is, but I would say the good chunk of this is. And if you see right over here, we've got a huge assortment here of Hot N Tots. Now, Hot N Tots came out in 1971. If you want a little bit of a history of Storm lures, go check out my video about the Storm Thunderstick. Now, I'll put the link down below, but you'll see a little bit of a history lesson of when some of the more popular lures were released. But the Hot N Tot has been around since the early 70s, specifically 1971. So we'll go ahead and take a little deeper dive into some of these. So I usually collect most Storms when I find them. But I think because I've got a lot of similar colors, I'm probably going to let a lot of these go. You just don't have time to fish them all. So let's go ahead and just take a little deeper dive and look at this. So look at the old school Storm lures right there on the lip. If you guys can see that, there might be a little bit of a glare. Ooh, man. And then we have right here, Hot N Tot right on the lip. Thin fin, just outstanding. You got right there. You got a chartreuse bone right there. And we'll take a look at what some of these would look like in the catalog as well. This is kind of a yellow bone. So you got Hot N Tot there on the belly. These are great for everything though. I mean, northern fish, bass, I mean, you name it. You know, it's just a highly effective lure. Here's a nice little craw pattern right here. You have a brown chartreuse belly. But yeah, I mean, very nicely well made. I mean, it's hard to say if this one is early 80s. I don't know, but because it's got that printed belly, or that printed body right there, where it looks like a craw, which was popular from back in the day. So these have some stuff on them. What's on this? Anyways, sorry, getting sidetracked. Okay, here's one of my favorite colors right here. Look at that rainbow trout. Oof, man, that's kind of the collection. That's a beautiful color. Love that one. But folks, a lot of these will be for sale though. So, especially these metallic ones. I don't know that I would fish that a whole lot down here. So, you know, pass that on to someone who will. This one has been, this one's got stories. This one could probably write a book about what it's seen and been through. Wow, wow, wee woo. That has been through the ringer. And then here's what that looks like nice and new. Here you go. This is kind of a purple metallic. And then you got this just bright fire color. This would be, you know, walleye, pike, I don't know, muskie, maybe, I don't know. I don't fish for a lot of northern fish, so I'm not sure what you're using. But, I mean, walleye for sure. That's just a really nice color. So let's go ahead and take a look at what these will look like in the Bass Pro catalog. So I'm pulling out this 1984 catalog because I really think this one shows kind of the best mix of what era I think these Hot N Tots came from, and only because of this kind of metallic finish that we have here. So it doesn't show the purple metallic, for example, in this, but you see the metallic was kind of all the rage for the kind of early mid 80s. But you do get to see like the yellow herringbone. I mean, a very, very popular color. You see that right there, very nice. And this is the one that I pointed out too, and this is the flow red, but I think later on they called it the fire red. But there you have it, just a super bright red right there. And flow meaning fluorescent red, but I think they called it fire red later. I don't know. You know what? I can't expect to know every color from every year, or maybe I should. I don't know. But there you go. There you have it. 1984. right, moving on to the next storm lure we've got right here. And I don't think this one is pre-RAPALA. In fact, pretty much a dead giveaway is usually when you see a website on here where it says storm lures. But this one is the Scat Back. Don't know much about this other than the fact that it's obviously an ultralight crankbait. Nice little lure, but that'll be for sale on eBay for anybody who might be interested in that. One thing that is pretty cool that was in this box is, check this out. An old school insert from Storm Lures, and how amazing is that? You got the complete lineup of Storm Lures from Thin Fin, Shiner Minnows, Hot N Tots, Thunder Sticks, the entire wart family right here. You got the Wee Wart, the Wiggle Wart, you got the Chug Bug, the Little Mac, the Big Mac, the Shallow Mac, the Little Tex. We'll have to do one about this one right here. This one's called the Texas Shad. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's got a rounded back end with a pointed front end. A very unique lure. Very cool. And then I love these. The Tubby family of lures is just a completely different ballgame. You can take the tails off of those and switch those around. But just a kind of a very quirky lure from back in the day. And so this kind of goes with the time frame. You know, late 80s, early 90s was kind of, eels were the rage. You know, Bill Dance had eels, everybody had eels. But what's cool about these is you could remove these tails, and so you put different tails on. And if you want to learn more about that, I got a whole video about tubbies. And so here, I'll just show you an example of what that would have looked like. So here's what an old school storm tubby would have looked like. Here's the tubby eel. Try to do that without the glare. As you can see, there it is. And it wasn't mentioned in that particular insert, but this is kind of where it started. Here's the little tubby, and you can see it's a little different only in the fact that, I mean, it's kind of got the same body more or less, but just without the eel tail. So this one just kind of had a curly tail. And there you go, there's a little tubby. So just something kind of fun and goofy you don't really see too much anymore. And then you could send away and just get these amazing hats. Look at that, old school 90s. Gotta love that. I'll take all those. I'd rock all that stuff. That's amazing. All right, moving over here, we've got another one. Don't know much about this, but it's going to be for sale for whoever wants it. But this is the Wild Eye Swim Shad. But these look nice. I mean, these are, again, I can't say that these are pre-RAPALA. I would probably say these are newer. These are probably, you know, within the last 20 years or so. But I've also got a whole bunch right here that have never been used. They're not in the original package, but they still have the hook protectors right there on them. Really cool. Look at that purple color. Can you see that? Does that glare too much? Woo, man. You know, that'd be amazing on. If you're allowed to have umbrella rigs in whatever state you're in, some states have different rules about that. These would be perfect for A-rigs. Alabama rig, umbrella rig, whatever you want to call it. This would be outstanding. Look at the detail though. It's kind of hard to see through the plastic here. I'll just show you the detail on this one because you can see it a lot better. But I mean, you can see the scaling in the plastic along with the color. I mean, the mold process when they pour these was incredible, and you can really see it with this one. This looks like a legit bait fish with the colors. It's kind of hard to let something like this go, but I've got so much stuff, I'll never be able to fish it all. So let somebody else enjoy it, you know? See that kind of, you can kind of see through that right there. Those are really, really nice. So there you have it. Those are the Wild Eye right there, the swim shads. All right, so one of the biggest lure manufacturers of the day, and we haven't even talked about them yet, and that is Cotton Cordell, and this is none other than the Spot, the infamous lipless crankbait. You hear that? The rattle inside there. This is the neon Spot. And if you look at the finish on this, see if you can kind of notice something a little bit different about that. Might be easier to see this on the other side. And it says G film. Look at the, okay, see if this light can, I'm going to try to get this. Do you see the G's in the body? It's pretty, it's easier to see it in person. Let's see if I can, there we go. If I do this, can you see that? I don't know. Well, as you turn this, and how the light hits it, maybe like right there-ish, you might be able to see that. There's little G's that are kind of right there. And what is that exactly? Well, the whole G finish or G film or whatever else was very big in the late 80s. We're going to take a look at this 1988 Bass Pro, and this talks about the G finish, okay? And it's kind of hard to read from back here at my angle right here because the font is pretty small there. But basically what it says is the G finish kind of captures all available light to generate a reflective line of light from one end of the lure to the other. Okay, so as this light hits, it says it has the brilliance of a strobe light. So as it moves around, there, you know, you're getting a lot of different light and a lot of different reflections, which is going to really attract the fish. So was this a gimmick? Uh-huh. Yep, it sure was. And but it worked. I mean, people loved it. So you probably saw the G finish on the Tiny Torpedoes a couple boxes ago. We did have that. And then here's some of the Rattl'n spots right here that have that. So some of them looked a little bit different. This one has the G film on it. And the G film may be a little bit different than the G finish, but it's all kind of the same type of idea. And I'll tell you, a lot of manufacturers in the day were kind of doing that, you know, reflective light. Every year has something. Remember 2025, everyone was buying those goofy little soft plastic balls with all the little fuzzies coming out the side of it. They look ridiculous. It's a total trend, and no one's going to fish them this year, I'm sure. Or maybe they will, I don't know. But, I mean, everyone was doing it, right? So, you know, basically back in the day, you know, this time frame, it was reflective light was it for the late 80s. You know, early 80s, you would have saw a lot of the natural craw type stuff like this, the printed on patterns. You know, there's always something. But I mean, look at this, for example. So this is a Whopper stopper version of that. And so you can buy these reflective cards to go inside the lure. You know, so a lot of folks were doing something kind of like that. And by the way, we were just talking about that one lure. Man, that sure does look... The Hubs chub, I just kind of happened to run across that. Is that the lure we were looking at earlier? Is that a Hubs chub? That might be a Hubs chub. Folks, did we just figure that out together? We're just looking through old catalogs, and I think we just cracked the code on that lure we looked at a little bit ago. The Hubs chub. Hold on. Hey, we're doing this on the fly together, folks. Let's pull this out. Okay. Let's look at that. Let's go back to where we just were. Folks, we did it. I think we did it. Look at this. In real time. Look at that. The eyes match up. The same style lip almost. This one has a little slightly different variation. But look at that. You got the indents. I'm going to say this is a Hubs chub, and I don't know anything about this, but that is pretty darn similar. Well, anyways, we'll keep the verdict is out on that, but I'm almost pretty sure that's what this is. So there we go. But if you think it's something different, you'll let me know. Hubs chub. All right, up next here in the little collection of lures that we've acquired, and this is the only other one that came from Dad's Tackle Box, and this is the Near Nuttin. And we'll show you what that would look like here in a Bass Pro catalog. But if you would have saw the lure new, it wouldn't have all this oxidation. Look at this. So there's obviously some metal in here that got wet, oxidized, and we've got this almost, you know, white-looking, I don't know what the heck is going on in there, brain-looking thing that's kind of morphed in inside the lure, which kind of gives it kind of a funky, crazy-looking look. But, you know, fish won't care, and, you know, that just shows some wear and tear, and this thing has been put through the ringer. He talked about all the fish that he's caught with this lure. So that is that. Let's go ahead and take a look at what that would look like. Here we go. Near Nuttin, 1984. So you can see right there, that's the same thing. This is what it's supposed to look like. Let's see, here we go. Yeah. So you can see it doesn't have all that oxidation or whatever else. But I love the see-through. The clear one's my favorite by far. It's just a cool lure. All right, and rounding out the bottom corner of the box here, we've got none other than the Hellbender right here, and a very, very popular lure back in the day. And how we know it's a Hellbender is a couple different things. First, you got the heart-shaped bill, and then you've got the little tailspin right here as well too. But this has been around since the 1950s. A great little deep diving crankbait, perfect for trolling, but it's a floating lure as well too. So you got one kind of in that silver shad, and then we have this kind of brown craw pattern right here, but a very exaggerated heart bill on that one. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that little looked like. This is in the 1976 Bass Pro catalog. You can kind of get an idea of the color chart here, but you can see how popular this lure was. I mean, a full page spread, colors for 76. Just a very cool, iconic lure that's been around for a very, very long time. Well, that's going to do it for part 1 of New Year Old Lures. I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough of these vintage lures. And as I mentioned before, look on Angling Archaeology eBay. A lot of these will be for sale very, very soon, so I'll be posting that. And I'll make sure to keep those prices down. I want to make sure that these are affordable, so you can get these in your tackle box, you can put them in your collection, you can go fishing with them. I just want to make sure that these things have a new life and get back out on the water again, so I'll make sure to keep those prices low. Be on the lookout for part 2, which will be a really fun one, because this one's going to be all new old stock, and so it's going to be a blast to look through all this stuff. But that's going to be coming out here very, very soon. So that's going to do it for Angling Archaeology, where we unearth the good old days. I want to thank you all for watching, liking, subscribing. If you haven't done so already, please do like and subscribe. And I got to tell you what, folks, it's free. Why would you not? And if you like this very mediocre vintage fishing content, well, then this is the channel for you. So maybe consider subscribing. You know, there we go. But that's going to do it, folks. Until next time, stick around for part 2. It's going to be a good one. We'll see ya. Thanks for watching Angling Archaeology, where we unearth the good old days. Don't forget to like and subscribe.